Okay, so tonight's talk is about joint nutrients. And as I said, we're going to talk about healthy joints. That's what we want to try and preserve. And then obviously degraded joints is what we want to try and prevent. So this is just very nice. It's a visual that I took from somewhere else where you can see. So all joint supplements is aimed at preserving your cartilage, because as you can see from this visual is that's what you want to try and preserve. Osteoarthritis or even rheumatoid arthritis is loss of cartilage. Up until now, there's not something like cartilage transplants. If you don't have cartilage anymore, you've got bone on bone, and that causes inflammation. You can see there you get those joint mice, osteophytes, bone gets polished and it creates inflammation and pain. And usually the outcome of that would be that you need a joint replacement. So what is the aim of taking a joint supplement? Why would people want to take it? And the aim is to delay cartilage degeneration. And you can't really rebuild cartilage structure, but to keep it as healthy as possible, because as I said, once it's gone, it's gone. So you do want to preserve it. And osteoarthritis is wear and tear. So how healthier your cartilage is, the healthier your joint will be as well. And then obviously to enable people to do the things they love without the pain. So the most important thing to always remember, and this is key, is what is the key components of cartilage? I'm going to use this one. It's easier to understand. So there's 4 main constituents in cartilage. The first thing is chondrocytes. So you've just got one type of cell in your cartilage, and this is your chondrocytes. What does a chondrocyte do? It produces new collagen and new proteoglycans. We're going to talk about the proteoglycans just now, but if you look at the sketch, you can see those things that look like leaves. So they are giving your joint structure. So if you think about your cartilage being healthy, it's like a jersey that's tightly knit. Cartilage that's not healthy, that have proteoglycans that are spares, is like a jersey that's worn out, that's got holes and things in it as well. So as I said, proteoglycans, it's protein and sugar. They trap water in the cartilage as well, and they give it that structure. It goes over and under your collagen as well. Then you've got collagen in your cartilage. This is why we always go on about collagen supplements as well. It's because collagen is one of the main constituents in your cartilage as well. And then water as well. This will be evident when we get to some of the nutrients, because chondroitin is known as the water magnet. So how does it look, this cartilage matrix? So obviously it's very, very slippery as well. It's like 2 ice cubes that you sort of rub on each other as well. So you've got the collagen. This is the protein. It gives you the framework. It's sort of like the glue. You can see that as the strength. Then you've got the proteoglycans, which is just protein and sugar. They are going like a building as well, over and above, giving it structure. And then water that acts as a shock absorber also gets the nutrients to the cartilage. And chondroitin is the water magnet. Now you might wonder, where does glucosamine fit into this? So it actually gives you those building blocks to create more proteoglycans. And where do you do that? In the chondrocytes. Remember, I said those are the only cells that you have in the cartilage. So if you remember this, a lot of what I'm going to be saying following on this will make much more sense. So as I say, you've got these chondrocytes, the little factories. So what do you need to be making more proteoglycans? You need glucosamine. It jumpstarts that whole reaction. So that's why glucosamine is probably one of the joint nutrients that has been researched the most. It's also one that is the most prevalent out there if you go to all the different shelves and things as well. You need glucosamine to be able to produce new collagen and proteoglycans. And if you've got an injured joint or a joint that's under stress, you would need extra glucosamine to facilitate that reaction. And that's why this is usually the first supplement that people start with. So most joint supplements work in one of 3 categories. So the aim is, when you evaluate a supplement, is to make sure that it's got ingredients that work in all three of those categories. Firstly, you want to reduce the inflammation. Inflammation is bad. Remember on that first visual that we saw, the more inflammation you have in your joint, the more damage you will have. So very important to address the inflammation and to reduce that so that you don't have any further damage. You want something that works on the structure of the joint. That's important. That's what keeps everything together. Ingredients that fit into that category would be like eggshell membrane because they're collagen, chondroitin, glucosamine. You saw now it's a precursor as well. It's a rate-limiting step when you're forming more proteoglycans. Then obviously you want something that is, actually it should be reduce pain and inflammation. They go together. That is an antioxidant as well, because when you have a lot of free radicals that's forming, when you have joint injuries or your joint is under stress, you want to neutralize those extra free radicals that gets formed. So this is just an overview. We'll get back to this at the end where you can see where does the different ingredients work. Does it work on the bone, the membrane, muscle? Is it an antioxidant? Does it help for reducing pain? And when it comes to joints, I always say less is more, but when it comes to joints, more is actually better because a lot of these nutrients have very good synergy and they all do different things. But the one thing that you have to make very sure about is what is the type of the ingredient that you have in there, the source, and also the quantity. It's no good if you buy a formula and it's, let's say, it contains chondroitin and it's got 10 milligrams in. That subtherapeutic is not going to do anything. So let's quickly touch on that so you understand what I'm saying. First one, glucosamine. As I said there, and as you guys could see, this is a building block of the proteoglycans, and therefore you need this also for, forming extra proteoglycans and keeping everything strong. What is glucosamine? It's an amino sugar naturally found in cartilage. It's synthesized from glucose as well. That's why if you read the package insert, you'll see sometimes they say if you have a tendency for sugar issues, you just have to be careful. But I mean, I looked at all the data. I haven't really come across anything that's worthy of mentioning, but that is something that they do say. This supplement is derived from shellfish. So if you're allergic to shellfish, this is one ingredient that you should definitely give a miss. There's two types. There's the HCl type and the sulfate. The majority of the studies were done with the sulfate. As you can see there, you need quite a hefty dosage. It's 1,500 milligrams a day. So that's why a lot of the really good supplements is either a lot of tablets or capsules, because you can actually only easily fit 500 to 700 milligrams of an ingredient into a size 00 capsule. So that would be two very big capsules if it only contains glucosamine. Sometimes this is the ingredient that's better suited to a powder, because if you think that 1,500 milligrams is the elemental quantities. So if you use glucosamine sulfate in order to yield 1,500 milligrams of glucosamine, you actually need like 1,700 milligrams. So that's quite a lot. It's a hefty dosage. With these older class of joint nutrients, it takes a while to work. You can see there 6 to 12 weeks. We always used to say to people, use it at least for 3 months. It can cause gastric discomfort in the beginning. That's why a lot of the products on the market would say 1 capsule 3 times a day, 2 capsules 3 times a day, or where you split the dosage until you're used to it. It does give you a modest reduction in pain. It's very good, especially short term. I've worked with this ingredient as well for people post surgery, for recovery, and just for increasing those glucosamine levels in their joints as well. Chondroitin, so this goes with glucosamine. The two are often paired together as well. Chondroitin is slightly stronger. As you could see from those first slides, it's actually one of the constituents in your cartilage as well. This is also animal derived from bovine, porcine, or marine shark cartilage. It is very strong anti-inflammatory. It has a stronger anti-inflammatory effect as glucosamine, and it also draws extra water into your joints. There's actually chondroitin overseas that they've registered as a medicine because of its strong effect. It's seen as a chondroprotective, the same as glucosamine. Again, here's the important thing to note. The dosage that was clinically validated is 800 to 1,000 milligrams a day. Not 10 milligrams, not 20 milligrams, not 50 milligrams, at least 800. So I can tell you now, you can pick up various products from the shelves and have a look at what's the amount of chondroitin they have in there. It's a very expensive ingredient. It's usually subtherapeutic. There's maybe 1 or 2 brands that actually adhere to the dosage that you need. But this is the second step. People usually start with glucosamine. Chondroitin is second in line, and there's been quite a lot of studies done with glucosamine and chondroitin together. And that's what I mentioned there at the bottom of the slide, the MOVE study. I can always send that to anyone that would be interested. Then MSM, I love MSM, organic sulfur. It has a lot of different effects in the body. Most people know it as a natural anti-inflammatory, but it is a sulfur donor as well. It works very well with glucosamine and chondroitin. If you look at the studies that they've done with MSM, so you need at least 3 to 6 grams. But that's in isolation. Once you do add MSM to glucosamine and chondroitin or to other nutrients, you can reduce the amount that you need to around about 500 milligrams. I think I mentioned it last week as well. So it is an indirect antioxidant as well. So it has like that dual function. Also very good for your tendons and your muscles. It reduces that delayed onset muscle soreness, and it boosts your glutathione level. So if you can see your glucosamine and chondroitin like building blocks, then the MSM would definitely be the cement that you use between those building blocks when it comes to your cartilage. Then collagen, we've spoken about collagen before as well, but let me quickly touch on hydrolyzed collagen. Again, here the dosage is important. Collagen is a big molecule. That's why you don't just get the collagen to take it unless it is in a format where the body can actually absorb it. So that's why for collagen, they hydrolyze it. And usually the collagen peptides that you get, that's those big tubs, that's what everyone is using. All these drinks that are fortified with collagen is actually hydrolyzed collagen. It's just the collagen peptides because it was broken down so that you can actually absorb it. The main source of this yields is type 1 and type 3. Remember, your cartilage is type 2 collagen, but some of this other collagen also gets converted to type 2. But yeah, this is also usually bovine or marine origin. If you see a powder that is type 2 collagen, it is chicken derived, but these ones is bovine or marine. Best taken with vitamin C to aid absorption. But as I say, the important thing to remember, the dosage is anything from 5 to 10 grams, closer to 10 grams, actually, if you want a therapeutic effect. And collagen, obviously, because you saw the structure of the joint, is important to ingest. Then eggshell membrane, this is my absolute favorite. It's unhydrolyzed now. Again, we've spoken about this too. So it is that membrane between the outside of the egg and the inside, and it contains a lot of other ingredients. As you can see, collagen type 1, it even contains a little bit of chondroitin, elastin. Some of the manufacturers actually have it on their specification where they test the elastin levels as well. It contains glucosamine, all kinds of growth factors. So this is a great one. You need a much lower dosage depending on the version that you use, anything from 300 to 500 milligrams of this eggshell membrane that you need. And it's a source also of 1, 3, 5, and 10 types of collagen. Then type 2 collagen. So there's 2 types 2 collagen. I actually most of the time only talk about one. So the one that I mentioned here, one of the trademarks is UC2. There's another one, B2 Cool is the other name that's also trademark. So this one is under nature. This means it hasn't been, it's also chicken sternum origin. It hasn't been processed at all, and you don't absorb it. It works with your immune system. And remember, we spoke about those little cells or factories that you have in your cartilage called the chondrocytes. So this native or under nature type 2 collagen works exactly on those chondrocytes. So if you see your cartilage as this road and it's got potholes because it's got some damage, then what this type 2 collagen does is it gets all the workers to go there to clean it out and to repair the pothole. So it puts you into repair mode, because at any specific stage you are creating more proteoglycans and you're breaking down. There's this process or the system running in your cartilage, but the system can go haywire and you could be breaking down more than you are actually producing. So this is where this native collagen is great. It's a great protective ingredient when it comes to your cartilage, because it makes sure that your chondrocytes are functioning the way that they should function. When is this ingredient not a good idea to take? When you don't have chondrocytes anymore. And when does that happen? When you have late stage osteoarthritis. So there has been some companies, because there's some data showing that native collagen is better for osteoarthritis than glucosamine and chondroitin. And a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon thinking this is the next best thing in isolation. They just took this ingredient and they were used to taking glucosamine and chondroitin, with the resulting effect that all of them then said that native collagen doesn't do anything. And the reason being is that they were late stage osteoarthritis, probably a lot of chondrocytes weren't functioning anymore. So then this ingredient doesn't really feature there. There's also studies for this showing that you recover faster, very good for knees and everything. But yeah, the prerequisite is you do still need chondrocytes for this ingredient to function optimally. If not, then it's probably better for you to have a glucosamine chondroitin type of combination, or either then rather just the eggshell. Boswellia, this is now, remember we spoke about the inflammation that you want to reduce. So Boswellia plays into that category. It is frankincense. It's a LOX inhibitor. But now remember, not all of these Boswellia extracts are the same. So you actually want one that is standardized, and the active ingredient or the constituent in Boswellia that is responsible for the anti-inflammatory effect is called ACBA, as you can see there. And a lot of extracts are either standardized to 10% or 30% ACBA, and if it is, then it does give you quite a good pain reduction effect. There is a trademark version of Boswellia as well. I think I'll put it in one of my handouts. Great ingredient, but make sure that it is a standardized extract. Otherwise, you might not be getting the full effect that you're bargaining on. Then curcumin, we've spoken about this before. It is very strong anti-inflammatory as well. This is now a COX inhibitor, and it's also a very strong antioxidant. The absorption is not so great. That's why you would see that there is a lot of different formats on the market where they've tried to enhance the bioavailability, either adding something in to break down or to help stop you from breaking it down, or adding it into a liposome or something like that, just to increase the absorption of it. But in my specific formula, the curcumin is only added in there to be an antioxidant, because the Boswellia are strong enough for the anti-inflammatory effect. Then one that people have asked me about before is this avocado soybean. Can never pronounce that word, but yeah, it's from it's a the product that's probably the best known is piascladine. There is some copycats out there as well. I think Dischem and Clicks also created their own ones. That is the dried extract. Piascladine itself, it looks like a capsule, but it's not. It's an oil on the inside. It's actually what you call a leaf cap. And you can see the ASU is a 1-to-2 mixture of avocado and soybean. This is quite popular for people to take as well, but just noting that because of the plant component in there, and that it reduces inflammation. So you will feel better, but it doesn't really contain something that works on the structure of your joint. So again, you can take it. I do know from looking at the data that it does have a estrogen type of effect, but quite low. Because there is that soybean in there. But if there's a female that can't take HRT and she wants something for her joints and she starts taking this, it might be beneficial for her from that perspective, but in a nutshell, it basically only addresses the inflammation. So yeah, here you have all the different comparison at a glance. As I said, you've got glucosamine and chondroitin. They are the main ones. I think probably the oldest joint nutrients that are around. The dosage is very important. The type is very important. Glucosamine, all the studies were done with the sulfate. Chondroitin, make sure that your formula has sufficient chondroitin in there. MSM, if it is in combination with any of these things, you can reduce this to 500 milligrams. In isolation, you need closer to 6 grams in divided dosages. Then you've got the hydrolyzed collagen, eggshell membrane, native type 2 collagen. You get normal type 2 collagen from also from a chicken. Sorry, I nearly said an egg, from a chicken, but that is just building blocks as well. Then boswellia, curcumin, and then you have something like ASU that just reduces the inflammation as well. Then I thought it wouldn't make sense if I don't touch on PEA. I think we've spoken about this as well. It's one of my favorite ingredients. So what is PEA? It stands for palmitoyl ethanolamide. It's something that you naturally produce when you have pain. So let's say you cut your finger, it hurts, then it hurts less, and then it hurts quite a bit. In that time where it hurt less, you secreted some PEA. So it's the same as MSM. MSM is also naturally present in the body. If you had to analyze your blood and your urine, there would be some MSM also in the atmosphere. So PEA is the same. Naturally present. It was a drug discovery for allergies actually in the 1950s. A very nice ingredient because it is naturally present in the body. You break it down very fast. There's no non-toxicity. There's no known drug interactions as well, which is nice. And for people out there that are athletes, you can use this as well. So it's not something that's illegal to take as well. I've said this before, if you have a joint issue, I've got no problem with somebody taking a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory short-term. You want to reduce that inflammation. If you don't, there's actually more damage to the joint. But the problem is if you start taking this long-term, and then as you can see, there is some risk, gastrointestinal damage, kidney stress, cardiovascular concern, blood pressure effects. So it is great short term, but long term there would be some issues. And obviously for people that have stomach ulcers and all kinds of other issues, it's not really the right, or it's not really something that I would want to take long term. But then PA is something completely different. It works more upstream, doesn't work downstream. As you can see, it works on mast cell modulation as well. Very good for people with underlying allergies as well. So I think if you had to think in pictures with PEA, it is, if let's say there is an alarm going off, and what the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory would do is go into the room and put off the alarm. So that's it. But what PEI would do is it would go to whatever triggered the alarm. Let's say there was a short circuit in the box. It would go there and fix the problem at the root, more upstream versus downstream. But what is PEA not? It doesn't repair your joint structure. It doesn't rebuild cartilage, tendons, or supply collagen building blocks. So remember, so that's why PEA is great, but you still need all those other nutrients that we touched on in the beginning, because this is not doing anything for the structure of your joints. Its role is pain modulation in inflammatory balance. The longer you take it, the better it becomes. So it belongs alongside some of these ingredients. That's why like I said, if you evaluate a good joint supplement, you have to make sure that it's got ingredients from all those different categories, and you want to reduce the pain and inflammation. That's important, but you have to make sure that whatever you're ingesting for your joints also really supports the cartilage and supports the joint. So, as I said there, think of it this way: joint active is the builder, the structure, collagen, bone support, and PA, the environmental controller, helps with pain, inflammation, nerves, and everything as well. Who benefits from PA? In my personal opinion, I've seen a lot of people with chronic joint pain and osteoarthritis, even if they have tendonitis and those type of things. Sciatica, nerve pain, this is a big one. I think before I started taking PEA, that was my big problem, is I was using a lot of joint supplements for my nerve pain, but there wasn't really something wrong with my cartilage. So even though some of them, let's say chondroitin does have some anti-inflammatory effects, it's not really specific for nerve pain. So I do need to preserve my joints because I do a lot of exercise. But when it came to the nerve pain, it's very difficult to have something that helps for nerve pain, and the PA definitely helped for that. Then also fibromyalgia, post-exercise stiffness and slow recovery. This helps me to stay on par with younger people. Also helps post-surgery and recovery. Very good for menstrual-related discomfort as well. Age-related stiffness and inflammaging, which is just another way of saying that aging is actually just uncontrolled inflammation. And there's some studies on sleep and things as well. And then I've had very good results with people using non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and wanting to reduce it. You can even use it together in the beginning. PA does have a pleiotropic effect, so it enhances the effect of any COX inhibitor. So that's even something like curcumin, or an antioxidant. It enhances it. So in time, then you can actually start reducing it. I just added this here. I will send the slides afterwards with my recommendation how I take it, but that's just how it works for me. But that's just for interest sake for everyone. And as you can see here, PA versus alternatives. The one that's the most well known is people, but it's died down a little bit now. But there was a big hype a while ago on cannabis and CBD and all of those type of things. The problem with that is that it also works on those endocannabinoid receptors, but you've got the THC component. So that's always, you have that downside to it, where that is not the case when it comes to PEA. So it's very safe. And as I said, the combination that makes sense to me is PEA and joint active. PEA reduce pain and inflammation, help me to recover faster, supports my immune system as well. Didn't mention it there. And then the joint active is a great supplement in terms of the synergy. You've got eggshell membrane for the structure of your joint, the native collagen, also structure of the joint, working on the chondrocytes. Then you've got vitamin K2, very important also for your bones. You've got curcumin as an antioxidant. You've got boswellia to reduce the inflammation. Then you're actually quite covered. I just had some testimonials there as well. Then just our normal supra disclaimer as well. So just a few take-home messages as well. So I think this is very important for me. So if I could turn back time, I would start with joint supplementation at a much younger age. I work quite closely with a sports doctor, and before we started with eggshell membrane, he used to put all his athletes on glucosamine, and he said to me that it really worked well for him in their 20s when they're doing a lot of sport to start taking joint supplements, because remember what I said, glucosamine is rate limiting. If your joint is under stress, there's probably not enough glucosamine doing the rounds. So for those proteoglycans to be formed, you add them in. And then from there onwards, he later on added the chondroitin, but obviously later on then we discovered eggshell membrane, which is just much easier, 1 capsule a day. It's got all those synergistic ingredients. It comes with the studies as well. But sooner better than later, you want to preserve your cartilage. Once you have a lot of damage, very, very difficult to turn it around. Yeah, I just added in the MSM as well. I love MSM. I think it is something that's great. That's why it's part of my sport-based powder as well. It just has fantastic synergy when you have it with other joint nutrients as well. Yeah, as I said, the eggshell membrane delivers the whole joint. I can't see my own slide. Go back. Yeah, as we said, eggshell membrane contains all those different constituents. As I said, Boswellia is very important. There's a lot of Boswellias on the market. Just remember, they're not all the same. Look for one that is standardized. You want it to be standardized. The ingredient or the constituent that you have to look for is ACPA or the boswellic acids. Otherwise, you actually need quite a hefty dosage. A lot of supplement people just put like a 4-to-1 extract on the market. It's not standardized. You won't get the same effect as with the standardized one. Then the ASU, as I said, it's primary anti-inflammatory. There was a lot of negative publicity a while ago where it was actually ASU versus glucosamine and chondroitin played very big on the whole eggshell shellfish allergy, and then chondroitin also a little bit of a risk with blood thinners, saying that this is your very safe alternative. But obviously, because it is an oil, it can also cause some gastric upset, but it reduces the inflammation, but it doesn't have that strong protective effect on the joints like some of your chondroprotectives would have. Yeah, and like I said, bioavailability matters, especially for curcumin, and choose clinically validated forms. But sometimes it's also just added in there as an antioxidant. So yeah.